Solvryn here. I'm joining my friends Chibi, Bree, and Vertec at the Golden Feather. And I'd like to invite you to come with me as we sit down and talk tales of adventure. And I can't wait to see you there.
Hello, and welcome to the Golden Feather Tavern, where your hosts, Chibi and Vertec, discuss Ashes of Creation and important topics spoken about within the Ashes community. At the tavern, we invite you, the viewer, and a special guest to pull up a chair, grab a pint, and join the conversation with us. So today is the 17th of May, 2025, and we are on episode 237, Artisan, Leveling, and Economy. The traveling bard joining us today is Solvryn. How are you today, friend?
Oh, every day's a holiday. How about you?
Second yeah. I love it. And the other person sitting in this chair over here is the lovely and talented Chibi Bree. How are you today? And what do we have on tap?
I would like to make sure I let people know we are delayed today because I was klutzy last night and Vertex stayed up to try and save my PC. Which we might be able to save. We're going to take it to Micro Center. But the time that he would have taken to get the intro done last night was instead spent meticulously taking apart my graphics card.
tearing stuff apart. Yeah.
So yeah, all things considered, I can still be here. I technically still have a PC. It did not catch on fire. Thank you.
Yeah, there wasn't any sparking, no fire, no crazy hazards. It's just her monitor went blank and we were playing a game together and her game froze and then she disappeared.
Yeah. Lesson learned.
Yes, sharing is caring, but maybe computers don't need to have drinks.
Yeah, I don't know. It seemed a little thirsty, so I figured I'd try and offer it some. It is tragic.
It is.
But welcome in, everybody. Coffee is better than a GPU. Welcome in, everybody. And today we are going to be discussing some of your thoughts on Ashes of Creation's 2.5 phase, and more specifically 0.9 and 0.10 updates. And we will be just kind of going through some of, like, primarily a lot of things on the crafting and the artisan feedback. There's a lot to be talked about for that. You guys had a lot of opinions over the last week or so. And then, of course, we saw some sneak peeks to Summoner, which I hear Solvryn is very excited to talk about. And of course, on top of all of that, the most important topic is our guest today, Solvryn. So, Solvryn, if you don't mind, since I'm pretty sure this is your first time officially on the podcast, could you give people a little bit of a rundown of who you are, where you are, and what do you do?
Well, my name is Solvryn. I am here in the United States, good old Kentucky, and I'm the GM of Atarian. It's a veteran-led gaming org. I really enjoy MMOs for the storyline, the plot, the parables and peripeteias. I enjoy my big things, PvP. And I'm up here.
What's a peripeteia?
Ooh,
that's a new word to me.
How do I explain? Give me 1 second so I can actually give you an example. So it's like a sudden reversal of fortune in a circumstance. Like when you're reading, say you're reading a like one of the Greek stories, and then there's something's going right, and then all of a sudden tragedy strikes, and then all of a sudden it goes downhill from there.
Okay.
Okay.
Like, and so it's just
Gotcha. That is a new word for me, so I learned something today. I feel smarter. I feel smarter.
I am a mythos nerd, not self-admitted.
Fair.
There's always something to take away from the mythologies, like Gilgamesh, and learning about all of Zeus and his 1,000,001 sons.
So, where did you pull the name Ethereon from?
All right. So when we were formerly known as Black Crown, there's like 5 million guilds with the name Black Crown in it. And when I was talking to my dudes in my guild, I was getting annoyed because I'm just like, man, how am I going to market this thing? How am I going to actually reach people? And a lot of us in my guild, we're all military veterans. So I wanted something that has that military bite to it. So, like we're adult, really no nonsense. Not for everybody, but we are for who comes to us. And so when I was rolling through it, I was just like, Aether and then Eon, really?
Okay.
And I wanted to put something together that kind of stands the test of time, which both of those refer to a long-standing period and like the infinite, pretty much, and still have that little bit of that edginess that we had with Black Crown without, sounding childish. And it was work. I mulled over it for days. I drove all my officers nuts sitting there rebranding.
I like it though. I like it. It's good stuff. I gotta say, I didn't know where it came from, so I just I typed it in Google before, and the only things that really came up was stuff about your guild, and then a company in Morocco.
Yeah,
that was about
it.
So
it works,
a
right?
Pick. I like it. It sounds good.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right, and what would you say is the guild's main focus in both the 2.5 right now and then going forward after that? Is it a different focus or the same stuff?
So we're recruiting, but our recruiting standards are a little specific because the way we operate. Like, I got some of my officers in here, like Save the Flower Pickers. Princess Stricken here is one of my officers. And we're big on, he's like my comms and logistics guy, and we're figuring that out with these econ changes. We are really big on that balance that Ashes has to have, between its creation and destruction cycles. So we're working on that and trying to doctrine that out within ourselves, working with our allies that are present here in your chat, making sure we carve out a spot for the little guy who may not necessarily be a bloodthirsty maniac like I am. So it's just, and that's it just takes time. So
that makes sense.
I'm a
Fair
devout.
enough.
Yeah, I am a devout honor PKer, and I will not attack people who cannot fight back. It just won't do it.
Yeah, it's like me. I need a good reason to fight somebody on purpose out and about, and just them being in the area where I'm trying to gather isn't really valid enough for me to want to attack them, unless of course they're already an enemy guild, in which case, that's totally different. They're gonna get jumped either way.
Pending the order of the otter. Chaos. Nice.
Sorry, Chibi. Keep stepping on you there. Continue.
No, it's all good. You just keep rolling one question out after the other. So if you have another, go for it.
No, you go.
Okay. I was wondering because obviously, I'm pretty sure you were over on Vira while we were on Lineth. How does Shoal feel, if at all different from Vira?
Ooh, so primetime Shawl used to be Vira 1.0 was really fun. You know, it was controlled. A lot of guilds also kind of take that honor PK guideline and like, you know, they're decent about who they attack. Vira 2.0, you got a lot of these guilds with these younger cats, and they're you know, they're a bit bloodthirsty and attack whomever they want. You know, that's all they want is PvP without understanding the full scope of what this game's supposed to be. And now you got Shoal, where the Europeans, you know, they love PvP, but they are very honorable. They're pretty good people. And then you got some of them that, oh man, but they are everywhere, you know, everywhere. So there's plenty of PvP drama. Luckily, I don't have to be a part of it because I'm just not interested in that nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of on the same page. I've always liked objective-based PvP, like PvP for a reason. But yeah, kind of like you, when PvP fighting is your only content and you're just out there to try to fight everybody and anybody all the time, every time you can, kills me.
Yeah. As much as I love doing that, I don't think that's really beneficial to the health of the game at all. It's definitely got to have all these other systems online, and there's got to be cohesion between them. Like, people who love crafting have to have a bit of power in the game. People who love gathering and econ also have to have a bit of power, and that balance definitely needs to be struck. Or else this game just will not work.
Yeah.
True story. All right, so out in the world, do you have any certain, if you're able to talk about it, any certain desire to go after specific nodes or biomes to try to call home? I know we haven't seen all the biomes, so there's still a lot of, you know, flavor to gather. And Esteban, thank you for the sub, by the way.
Thank you so much.
So
Cheers.
with like my entire crew, my guild and my allies, I just typically like, what I do know is all of us are sick and tired of the darn desert. You know, everybody's had about enough of those scorpions, those beetles to last a lifetime.
Yeah.
You'd be walking 2 feet and all of a sudden the scorpion body slams you. You'd be walking 2 feet and all of a sudden you're getting rammed by one of those beetles. And it's just like, the amount of people I've heard say, I'm done with the desert. So people can have that Dust Bowl. That's all theirs.
Yeah, there's been I think since at least the beginning of the Sand Squall Desert being released, there's been like the mob clusters are either a lot to deal with or they're all super high level. So if you're a lower level trying to get into one of the nodes that you could do some sort of either voting or crafting, you struggle with getting in without like some set of like guards around you just to get in there. And then on top of that, yeah, it's not safe.
Yeah.
Not a safe place.
But you know, my crew, the people I've been playing with, they're all troopers. We went down into the desert, even though they did it holding their nose, you know, because it stinks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we did what we had to, you know, and they made the use of it, you know, like my guild, Revis, Otters, Order of Honor, you know, hanging KLC, and then there's a couple other guilds, like we got Shadow Division with us, you know, and we were getting it done, you know, like holding our nose at that stinky desert, but we were getting it done. I got no complaints. You know?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
2.5 had a few curveballs in the beginning of it, but it is what it is.
Absolutely. I think 2.5
curveballs.
itself was a curveball.
Yeah.
Solvryn is the GM of Avatarian, yes. Astarian. Atarian.
Asterion. We're hitting that BG3 life.
Leave me alone. I actually saw somebody playing earlier today. Like Boulder's Gate. But
Goodness. So
30 streak. Very nice, Oracle.
heck yeah.
Thank you.
I love it. Cheers to that. A month straight.
Right. I think unless you maybe one more question if you would like to ask another.
I was just gonna say that if Solvryn, if you have anything else you'd like to plug or throw out there real quick, then we could move on into chatting Ashes there.
Yeah, shameless plug for everybody I've been running with.
Yes, thank you.
the
Cheers.
Revis Order, Shadow Division, KLC, Order of Honor, Otter Nonsense. They've been a blast to play with. Apotheosis and Stu Bad's group, absolute blast to play with.
There we go.
A lot of devout and passionate players. And they're. I feel pretty blessed to have so many different personalities around me, especially as I don't know, I'm pretty much the Ashes of Creation grump at this point. It's just being able to navigate such different and diverse personalities and get to learn people when I struggle as a veteran in a civilian world that I really don't understand helps me gain perspective on how to be around people, and I'm very blessed and appreciative to have that.
Yeah.
Good.
And as somebody who doesn't really like PvP, it's always nice to know that there are respectful, I don't know, a better way of putting it, but just consensual PvP people out there where if I don't really attack you back, you'll leave me alone. That's kind of nice to know. Just because there's people where I clearly don't want to engage with and they don't care and they chase you down for whatever reason that they want to.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, for my crew, we ain't running. They want to fight, we're going to throw down, win or lose.
Yeah.
We rather...
Sometimes I'm just trying to get to the next city so I can log out. That's all I want. People I run with, win or lose, you stand, you fight, and at least you die with some honor. Unless, of course, you got a lot of glint, and then, then we tell that person to... Oh, yeah. Well, and unless something changes with the caravan system, Vertec and I probably don't have a lot of glint. We are typically just selling the glint at this point.
Yeah. I've not had good luck with caravans. People don't like me.
Yeah. But so there's been a lot of chat on Ashes lately, but before we get into that necessarily, I kind of wanted to share this really cool thing from the community. And there's all these different types of challenges that people have put out from time to time, and this one is one from Phoenix Twists from about 5 days ago, and they are putting out an immersive challenge. Pick the furthest node from you, turn off the UI, and try to get to that node without ever looking at the map. Recommended for level 10 plus. P.S. It's more challenging than you think. It's very easy to get lost in the wilderness. But I thought that was really cute, and it's definitely something that if anybody really enjoys, just letting the terrain guide them, I think that would be a fun challenge to try. I think Vertec, we should try it at some point for one of our streams. Maybe we could try traversing from, I don't know, I feel like I know the map pretty well just from how much I've ran back and forth, but we could try traversing from one point of the map to another point that chat chooses. Now Meta is doing caravels. We've
run across the map from desert to jungle so many times, or
so
tropics
much.
rather. Yeah,
So
yeah,
much.
we'd be able to make it. I mean, we may not exactly get the exact route that we recall, but yeah, we'll get there for sure.
Yeah.
Just gonna be, I'm gonna turn right here because I remember turning right here, but it's not the bridge coming up that you thought it was. It's the other way that would have gone over the bridge you thought it was.
Yeah. All right. Sorry, I'm updating the notes for. I put it on Twitch, but not YouTube. All right, cool. So the other thing I wanted to bring up is, let me just mark that off. So where do I want to begin with this?
I don't know.
There's a lot. There's a lot from the forums and from Reddit. And I'm trying to find. Okay, there we go. So from Saint on Reddit, they said that was a terrible decision, talking about the changes to the Rarity system. Now, I don't know if how many of you are following this or what you remember, but Intrepid. Yeah, see, POIs are so easy to follow. I love it. But Intrepid put out a systems for the gatherable that it's evolving and changing, and here's the URL to that, just for anybody who's possibly coming across this after today or after these dates. But previously they mentioned that for 0.9 April 24th release, 0.10 May 8th release, 0.11 May 22nd release, there's going to be a bunch of gathering updates. And Saint on Reddit said, it would have been better to make crafting less exhausting rather than making the drop rate more punishing to compensate crafting stuff. But you guys did the opposite. Now there's more grind just to craft anything, and you still don't get any gear drops after killing the same mobs 500 times. And I'm picking out this one first because Steven responded to it directly, saying there's a significant economy update that we are working on, which will include recipe balancing, introductory gear sets, reward table rework, and gatherable updates. This work is expected to hit within the next 1 to 2 weeks. So with that being said, I believe 0.10 is live currently. And you guys have, you guys as in the community have a lot of thoughts on the systems at the moment. But before I get into any of the community's thoughts and specific things to pull up, what are your guys' thoughts so far in general? I know we're probably halfway through. We're still needing 0.11 to drop before it's completely finished. But obviously they've adjusted it so that the mobs don't drop gear as much. And that is supposed to put a heavier intention on crafting. And then on top of that, when you get to the higher tiers of crafting, it requires more resources as of the last time that I was testing and playing around with it. So with that, how has that felt for you so far? And what do you think in general? Also, welcome in, Alfred. That's exactly the same question I'm asking. But Solvryn, I'll go ahead and have you start.
So, I think the gatherings they're going in the right spot, in the right direction with it. It's still obviously going to need a lot more iterations. The gathering XP is good, and everybody I know that I've talked to is happy that there's more gathering XP, and there's you're getting more XP from it. The clusters, I've gotten hit and miss reactions. I like them, but I don't think that's really fair for me to say I like something, because I'm pretty easy to please. I know that one of my officers, he's in here, and he's not being very opinionated in chat. He's a major gatherer, and it's hit and miss with him. Yeah, I think he wants to see a little more improvements. I know the biggest frustration with me and everybody I hang out with, my guild and all my allied guilds, especially a Tash if he's in there. That is my crafting officer. He's getting mad with the the trap rates for gear, and he's like, Solvryn, why did Intrepid up the cost of everything? Like, why does it take 1 million ignits to craft one simple item? And I'm like, dude, I'm not a dev. I don't know. Like, but I'll voice your concerns right now.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
Fair.
Personal opinion is like gear. There should be lesser versions of gear if you're going to drop gear. I don't really, as somebody who wants to advocate for the balance of power in this game, I don't like that gear drops at all. You know, I know that I've had this conversation with Jamie Chaos a lot, and him and I are aligned. We're just like, no, just only crafting, dude. Like, only crafting. And I know for me, like, I know I personally, like, I'm a big crafter. I just will not craft if I find the system boring. I will find somebody else to do it.
Yeah.
Get called lazy by my officers, and believe me, they rib me all the time.
Vertec, what are your thoughts?
So I like the direction things are going piece by piece. I know the one comment that Steven made is that, you know, there's more changes upcoming. I think they said that there's gonna be 3 drops, right? One was gonna be basically right before right at the 2.5 change, just about. Came a little bit after, if I recall. And then what is it, the 20-something of May, and then like the
22nd,
17th of April. Yeah, 22nd and like the 12th of April or something like that. I don't recall the exact dates, but I do know there was going to be 3 major updates to it. And as long as they're moving in a direction that kind of makes sense, and I like the removal of the static nodes, adding of clusters is kind of cool. Definitely appreciate that. I saw Pockets commented on there's an increase in experience from gathering. I think that's neat, mainly because you'll be able to, you know, level up as you're gathering. And as you're processing and crafting, gives you a little bit more experience that way. It's a valid way of leveling up, because to me it never made sense that if somebody wants to live as a crafter or processor, and so they stay in town or at a node, and there's some items that boost your experience gain for your artisan skills, but you can't use them until your adventuring level is increased up to a certain point.
Right.
So being able to increase your adventuring level to get those by doing crafting and whatnot is, I think, pretty cool. I just think it needs to be time gated, you know? Like, everything should be balanced around a certain amount of time to hit that level 50 after launch. As far as gear drops, I'm in the camp that humanoid stuff should drop humanoid gear at least occasionally. It should basically all be common, with maybe the occasional green. And then bosses, maybe the occasional blue, but they should also be dropping materials a lot more often to make and craft armor with, and to create certain sets. But the same could be said about creatures. Creatures should drop more things like meat and bone and such like that. Instead of having to go out and hunt them for all of that, there should be a little bit of drops just by slaying things, because it makes sense. Yeah, poop. Exactly, Basil. that way, like, going out there, you can well, does the time gating, what I mean by that is, if they set the experience to a certain point to take X amount of hours to hit max level, then those X amount of hours, it should take that many hours to hit max level through crafting. It should take that many hours to hit max level with processing or gathering as well. That's kind of what I mean by the time gating. Like, set a standard, and then every method of leveling your adventuring class should take about the same amount of time. That way there's choices, and they're all valid. Every choice is valid on how you want to level up your adventuring class. That's my opinion, though.
I will be a bit more succinct with my answer, because I want to add on to just some of the points that Chad is making. Overall, I think that it's something that I'm still trying to decide on. I think that the direction is going possibly in the right direction. It's obviously going to take some fine tuning and some balancing, which we're not quite in that phase yet, the balancing phase. So yeah, I think in general, making sure that the crafters are able to make things. I think my biggest critique at the moment is that I forgot who it was, and I don't have the ability to pin in everything like you do, Vertec. But somebody said, it was Creepy Janitor. I agreed with Creepy Janitor. It says, novice craft should be novice. I understand upping the crafting cost, but why on the novice? And that's my point. I always advocated make novice easier. Make novice less resources, because at the end of the day, and as we're going to see as we go through one of these posts coming up here, at the end of the day, you're going to be out leveling novice before you even need any of that gear. It depends on how they balance the leveling after, the current systems, after the current phase. But as of right now, I think somebody got to 20 within like day 1 of the servers being up. And so as long as that's happening, novice gear is going to be useless.
Yeah, because really quick, just to chime in on that point you made, like we got to level 10 in what, like one play session of like 6 hours or something?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, to extenuate that even further, you don't get apprentice until you get a tier 3 node, which that takes at least a couple of days. So you've out leveled the gear in one day, and you can't make the better gear until a couple days later. So I'm trying to figure out how we can fix that, but we'll get into that for a second. First, I want to highlight some key. Whoa, sorry.
Whoa.
I was trying to click this. So Ashes Moments, thank you so much again. Put up a key highlights of patch 5.16 notes, and some of them are exactly what you're talking about. They introduced gatherables being able to spawn in cluster areas and contain a random amount of gatherables of the same type. They also include artisan activities, now give adventuring experience based on tier, rarity, and other factors. And then contributing to service buildings, construction costs can now be done with a larger variety of gatherable resources. So for example, ash and western larch can be contributed instead of only oak, sorry. And I think that these are kind of fundamentals, right? The service building construction is something that was kind of competing with crafting, right? Do I make something, or do I, instead of being able to make something, give all of my things that I've been saving to make something to this building so that I can then make something later? But then I don't have that anymore. And that was kind of one of those pivot points. And then on top of that, this is just the beginning of the gatherable changes. I haven't seen any confirmation of this yet, so I'm assuming it's not quite in yet, but we're supposed to eventually see where processing allows you to dynamically change the rarity of it depending on the items that you put in, and your sickle or your hunting bow being able to be unequipped. I don't know if that's in yet. I haven't, honestly. I wanted to test this out, but I don't know. I'm gonna have to try it on this laptop, I think. I was gonna look at it this weekend, but yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But at least having the gatherable rarity take part, like I would love that, especially with the crafting rarity, because I think at least for flowers, if I gathered a high quality flower, it gave me more XP. But if I made high quality shoes, it did not give me more XP than common. So that's something that I'm going to be looking for as a pivot point for me. Now, one thing I want to bring up, which is on the conversation of not having enough things to wear. This is from forums by MDS, and I'm going to summarize it for you, but there's the full thing if you want to go look at it. In summary, this person feels that early game drops were too frequent and powerful, removing the need for crafting during leveling. Crafting was too resource intensive early on, and gathering was difficult, discouraging participation in the artisan systems. And then after the drops were nerfed, the item gap was not filled by crafting due to increased input costs. So that kind of killed crafting viability early on, which we kind of like teased at. And players are essentially resorting to repeating quests on alts to gear up their mains. Now, this is through the token system that they added in, where you could do the quest line at Second Sword Outpost and going towards Jova or Nuela and grabbing the parcels. And then you get these tokens, you turn them in, you're allowed to get pieces of gear. This person is suggesting for phase 3 that they make low and mid-tier resources more abundant, meaning that obviously there's like a complaint about copper still. And then also keep gear drops rare and generic, encouraging crafting as the main gear source. And it keeps set pieces out of the drop tables. And then increase XP required per level. So it slows progression in a meaningful way rather than out gearing your gear before you can even make the gear investment during that early phase of leveling. And then on top of that, their last option is support artisan progression with gear. So gathering progression in gear should matter as much as crafting gear, incentivizing the full engagement. Now, what are your thoughts on that? Because I don't remember what Steven said. I think he said it was about, 100 hours or so to get to max level? Or I might be misremembering that. But how does getting to 10 feel for you? And do you think that they should slow it down in order to incorporate novice crafting? Or do you think they need to adjust how much you need to put into novice crafting to make novice crafting easier? What are your thoughts on that?
Ooh. So what I think is they should really do it on a curve. I know that Creepy has been farming Grems, and the biggest complaint is like the amount of Grems you have to farm and the amount of like leather just to get, started off you need to have. And I think that crafting should curve and align with not like your crafting level or your artisan level and your adventurer level, and I forget the third, come together, right? And as far as I'm concerned, so like crafting and your artisan level and your adventurer level should go together as you level out through the entire experience, right? And introduce entertaining long leveling instead of like 10 hours of beating your head against the wall, getting trained on Encephalon or something, or waiting to crash. I also think that nodes, because it pertains to crafting, the nodes should scale and it should provide that time gate, but give players the ability to develop the node in their crafting, and they should all coincide. And I don't know what the speed of that looks like. I just know that's how I'd like to see it, And I do think that crafting at first shouldn't be so daunting to new players, right? You have to still make the game still, when you start, needs to be friendly to somebody who has never touched an MMO before, or we won't have players. And then that curve needs to go up, just like any skill, go up towards endgame. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's a lot of mats in the beginning crafting for no reason.
Yeah, I agree. Artek, what are your thoughts?
And honestly, I haven't really thought this out and put it down on paper to schematic it out, so I don't know how well it would work. But I always thought it would be a nifty idea to make things a lot more on a realistic scale of how much it really takes to make something, but then you need to make a tier 1 crafting component and then add tier 2 materials to that to make a tier 2 component. or tier 2 crafted item. Sorry, so you'd take you would need your base level 0 armor, and then you would add some tier 2 components to it, incorporate in that tier 0 armor, that no level armor, and then add in some stuff to make it a level 10 plus. So you could make the materials more plentiful, because you'd need the level 1 stuff, like the level 1 gatherables, to make anything all the way up to even like a level 50 piece of gear. You'd still need some level 1 materials, and you just tack things onto it and alter it, maybe even to the point of through the process you can tell like visibly that you took the base armor, you stripped some items off of it, and then added the tier 2 materials to make it a tier 2, and then you added some tier 3 things onto it to make it the tier 3, and then you stripped some things off, added some tier 4 to make it a tier 4 armor, that type of thing. Like a constant evolution of gear.
Yeah, I think that for me the biggest problem is that at novice level it feels like crafting is not even viable, or it doesn't matter, right? At least in phase 2, and I believe part of phase 1, you kind of just pushed through novice as quickly as you possibly could to get to apprentice, because nobody was needing anything from the novice stuff, unless you're a weaver, maybe, or somebody who's making something that's very core to the upper tier crafting and processing areas. But like making shoes and stuff for a tailor wasn't really that important, and as an alchemist, for sure, I felt like none of the only thing that was super important for an alchemist to do that got me leveled pretty quickly was making red inks for scribes. So it's just one of those things where I think they need to make novice so much more attainable and easily done. And I think that they're trying to adjust how much XP you get to make it comparable, that you're spending your time doing crafting rather than going out and doing some sort of mob grinding or something. So if you're gathering or crafting something, that's worth your time still. And I think that's interesting. I just don't want it to overshadow where like maybe I don't know, maybe it's up for debate for me. Maybe it's just a little bit too much that you can get to level 20 just by creating gear in a similar amount of time as like an adventurer. So I think that having a degraded amount of adventuring XP, not exactly 1-to-1, but similar. I don't know. That's something I need to get more thought to, I think. I'm a level 22 tank. I crafted level 0 boots at epic level as an upgrade. Yeah, so it's just honestly, and to be very genuine, if you haven't done the quest at the Second Sword Outpost, I would recommend doing that, because they at least give you like green gear, like better gear than you're gonna start off with. But sorry, where was I going with this? That being said, Silverthane on the forums currently feels like the state of crafting is atrocious, and that trying to craft novice gear such as an axe or a pick, you need copper, and there's no copper to be found. And their complaint is that we have been talking about having a lack of copper for a while, because the forums are full of posts about the lack of it. But months have passed and nothing has really fixed or changed. No new spawns for change of availability, or being able to buy marketplace copper, etc. But like their issue is you take one copper ore and you break it down and you get one fragment, and they feel like that's a little too little. Like you should at least get 2 or 3 fragments from that.
Yeah, it feels weird.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, did anybody else feel like that was strange with some of the breakdowns?
Take the same amount of copper and make a sword, or you can make an axe head.
Yeah,
kind of awkward.
Exactly. Or a book. I needed so much copper for the second sword, or the Highwayman Hills book. I needed so much copper for that. It's crazy.
I think the like there is very little copper, but it also makes me wonder, like, what is copper gonna look like when the map is totally complete too, and how they're gonna balance it at then.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to be like a little forward thinking to answer that question. Right now it's a nuisance, and it's hard to test the alpha when, like, where's the copper, and the recipes themselves don't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
and that's kind of, I'd agree on that, because the little poll that Chibi put out there, that's why I said I'm kind of holding my judgment on how good or bad is anything in crafting is right now until after they complete their full update that they've been working on for a while now. And the fact that it's taken months to make a change, I mean, the crafting is hooked into all the economy stuff, so that's not just like a bug fix, like, oh, I'm clipping through a wall in Lionhold. Cool, we'll get that fixed tomorrow, no problem. Hey, the crafting system as a whole and gathering and everything like that is kind of broken. All right, let's put this on a whiteboard for a little bit and think through this.
Yeah, I think people, some people who aren't like aware of how an economy is supposed to work, just basics, like market volatility, like, is also a good thing if you're savvy. And I do think that if they buff it to where everyone's super satisfied, you remove that market volatility off of the nodes, and then you kind of also affect like really hardcore econ players, and
Right.
that's you don't want to have it perfect to where everyone's super like thumbs up, yay, this is perfect, because it's never going to be perfect.
Absolutely. Everybody has their idea of what perfection is, etc. Pockets was talking about he has 37 uncommon ore, copper ore on day 2 because he did a map. And I think that's one of those things where, like, yeah, I think that's what the point of doing some of the maps and stuff is perhaps you find some of these resources that are harder to find. But what do you do when you need a certain tier of copper ore and you can't get that tier of copper ore because you just can't find it in the world? It's one of those interesting things. And somebody else had a different opinion on how to deal with the rarity system. I didn't know what to think about this exactly. But let's see, where was it? There we go. The suggestion was to replace quality, like common, uncommon, rarity on materials with a quality rating stat, where it'd be like 1 to 6 with a decimalized. So it's like 1.1 or like 2.12 would indicate your materials between uncommon and rare quality on average. And I didn't know how to think about this. And I mean, Solvryn, you and I were chatting before this. Mm-hmm. Some people really like to have math in their MMOs. Some people like to have a little bit of math, and some people just go way off the deep end. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like you would be constantly doing a math equation to try and figure out which quality to use, I guess, or maybe like it's a quality that you can't see. But then how would you know the value of your material at that point?
Yes. So I am a metal worker by trade, and it sounds like to me they're trying to get into like strength, like metal strength.
Okay.
And that has like a rating, so it just depends on what you need it for. Like you would never use copper in construction because the building would collapse. I'm not sure if they're like going for that or if they're more going for like maybe carbon strength, and like an 8 point something would be like the best roll you get on the damage of the rarity when they create it. Like, I think I'm tracking what they're saying, but I'd need more details from them. I wouldn't mind that as long as, like it said, I think it does. Like you said, it does need to display a good bit of power gain there, so you can actually understand the difference. Because again, I'll always come back to the new player experience. New players are not going to understand intrepid math when half of us who've been testing this game still don't understand intrepid math.
Yeah.
So, honestly, I think there doesn't even need to be a number system made to do the same thing, because it's 1 through 6 or it's common through legendary. Just it's that rarity, right? And just being able to do something like tempering to increase a rarity of something, that's all you really need. Like, let me take 5 or 10 common granite and turn it into uncommon. Right?
Yeah, like a refining type of system.
Yeah, just exactly like refining. Add it as a skill option in the skill tree for processors is refining, right? You need to spec into it, but you can refine. Like yeah, exactly. A good shepherd. Yeah, take 10 and turn it into 1 or 2. A chance to proc a second one or something like that, and that I think would be good enough.
I agree with that, because there's a lot of ways they can create a really good refining process that will give back to the economy and still put the power of the economy in the hands of savvy players.
It's also going to give gatherers that are just out there gathering like tier 1 materials an outlet on the marketplace to dump all their raw goods to make some money real quick to start off with, while they're just trying to, grow up in the world. And someone else is processing and they're like, oh, I need to get some rares. Oh, let me grab a boatload of commons, because the way the market's working, it's better to buy a bunch of commons and turn them into uncommons and then turn those uncommons into rares.
Yeah,
right.
That would have saved me a lot of time when I went out and shoot, what did I do last phase? And so Creep needed a bunch of wood, and then he's not in here, but one of my other officers, Smith, needed a bunch of wood. So I spent 3 days farming wood. It was all just regular wood, and it's just like, really, Intrepid? Like, come on.
Yeah.
I think I would like my efforts to at least be able to condense some of that into better crafted material. Like, it was more like, man, that was a lot of time spent. I could have done something else, I don't mind being hardcore, but
I am all for, and I think I mentioned this previously, I am all for there being primarily up to blue, with a rare chance of getting above blue as you go higher progressively. I'm fine with that, honestly, because rare, it's rare. It should be rare. Uncommon and then common, right? But I think that I would like to see, as you get to apprentice, you're getting a little bit more green than just white. And now your upper end is sometimes getting a yellow instead of a blue, and so on and so forth. As you get better at your trade, you start to be able to hone your craft a little bit better. And when you're gathering those items, you're able to pick out which one's the better gather, etc. That's just an opinion I have. I don't think that means you'll never get another common again. I just mean that it becomes more often like the average lean towards the next tier up. But yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things that, like, having a bunch of common in your bag doesn't feel good either.
No, it doesn't. But I also think, touching back to what Vert said, I think that if they were to do like that crafting style where you can constantly upgrade, it gives the regular player a chance to remove the market volatility out of the bottom of the market and stabilize it. And then it gives people who want to play the market at the top, like, going after more rare resources. That way you can avoid a lot of that, like you can avoid the game theory for the average player, and you can have that game theory and, like, econ for, like, the really economically savvy,
Yeah, absolutely. And I also want to add into that, there was actually a post from hold on, let me copy this. Gimbalwald, Gimblewald, that's a name, on Ashes of Creation's node resources and systems network, and a 2.5 economic network failure. Just kind of outline. I'm not going to go into this. This is pretty lengthy as well. But from what I understood, it's one of those things that it's really important, right? This is a lot of the people are agreeing, saying that this is a really good write-up. For a brief summary, glint recipes and raw materials are the primary resources imported to nodes. Raw materials are processed into refined materials, and both are used to upgrade node workstations. Recipes and workstations are required by crafting to output gear, and gear is required to engage in all content efficiently, especially combat. And there's a lot of reason for there to be crafters within not only a node, but a guild and a zone. And I think that in order to make a name for yourself, it's something that's kind of important, right? Being able to be known as the tailorer or as this other person. And to Vertex's point, especially at the higher tier, like I'm thinking journeyman, master, grandmaster. When you get to the upper tiers and you need like the freehold to put the processing on, I could totally see that as a journeyman plus item that you could spec into, where you could grab those lower tier commons and refine them into upper tier items because you've been at your craft enough. And maybe that's where the journeyman stations plus allow you to do that refinement, perhaps as like a skill tree option. And that would not only add like the necessity of having a freehold. So like, let's say Vertex, or well, actually, let's just say Solvryn is the metalsmither. Vertex needs the metal. I need metal because I need to make a new book. He needs metal because he's a tank. So he just needs metal in general. And Solvryn has a freehold. I would be much more likely to help defend Solvryn's freehold because he's the primary resource of the metal that I need. And therefore, he's able to refine some of the lower tier metals on the market and maybe flip a profit or be able to lower the cost of resources that he has to put out for people because he's getting XP just refining things. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on that in general? Because I think that helps even economy. Like even if you just did it to flip to make money.
So give me a moment. I want to actually craft out my thoughts right.
Okay.
I think I'm going to start with the defending of the freehold because I know this relates to like my guild and how Creep, Shiny, who's Princess Stricken in here, and Natasha structuring our logistics apparatus with our other officers. Definitely important to be able to control the market on your near nodes, and it's definitely important to be able to flip that. On the same side, I know that it's also important to, when they finally implement it, if they implement it that way still, if it's still in the plans, if their tech can do it, to be able to take those resources farther away to other nodes where that rarity is happening. I do think I agree with you in your sentiments. And then to go farther than that, like I do think it's really important to be able to churn out more metal, like as far as tanks go. Also, side note, shameless plug. Tanks need help with the repair bill, Intrepid. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yes, they do.
I did that for Vertec and Good Shepherd and all my other tank friends. Please, for the love of that expensive repair bill. I come out of pocket for my own tanks. It's crazy.
Yeah, somebody said, oh no, selling glint, how dare. And I was like, you don't understand. He needs to sell glint in order to survive.
Yeah. And then I think also, to your point, recipe appropriateness is, I think I'm going to frame this, like making tank gear with the right tank stats already doesn't exist, and it's probably going to be a pain enough. You know what I mean? For the amount of types of gear when this thing's finally balanced. And then for your book to also need metal, it's just a metal frame for a book. It's not like I've never seen a metal book before. No one's going to carry around a metal book. I would.
Do you know the recipe that I'm talking about?
No, not off the top of my head.
Hold on, let me pull it up. I'll let you guys know. If you guys, I have not crafted this book. It's ridiculous for a book. I expected more wood because paper.
Is it the one from, did you get the recipe from the boss in Carfin?
I think so.
And
I think it's actually the Highwayman Hills one first, and then the Carfin boss.
And technically, books, because I am a craftsman in real life, you only use a frame as a decoration, and most of it's either going to be leatherback, it's going to be pulp-based paper, or you're going to do papyrus. So I still don't understand the logic with the metal part. I get that.
Yeah.
Like, is it for a frame? Like, that better be one magical frame.
This is a common spellbook, two-handed. It's the Forsaken Blade spellbook. It requires 35 bronze ingot, which is 2 tin to 1 copper fragment. And
okay, so you're building
flux.
a printing press is what you're doing.
Basically, yes. I need 35 bronze to make a book with 1 fine paper and 1 magic powder. The magic powder I'm fine with, but I'm like, the ratio of paper to bronze ingot is just crazy, especially when it's primarily paper. You get one. I have a really thick metal book with 1 piece of paper in the middle.
This is
basically, yeah, 70-10. That it took me a month to make that.
This is where I'm gonna say, not to interrupt you, but
no,
I'm
you're
gonna
fine.
say, Intrepid, if you're watching this, please contact actual artisans in real life and draw out your crafting, but at least make it material appropriate for your weapons and your armor, because that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Well, at least it wasn't stuck with the accidental. I still don't understand what the numbers mean, but what Stephen was saying was the 331 setup, because it was going to cost, oh geez, wasn't it like 400 wood to create one the club from Tumak?
I forgot which one you outlined, but yeah, there was something you outlined that was like egregious.
It's like, do you want to build a tavern or do you want to build a mace?
Yeah. It was ridiculous. And again, I understand if that's a refining thing, but when it's not a refining thing, like, that's a lot of wood just for a mace. I could contract a whole entire tavern off of that wood.
Yeah. So I mean, luckily they changed it from that, because that was kind of a shell shock for some people looking at it going, oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Vertex,
haven't seen the math for what it is now though after the change.
Vertex armor at this point is going to be his entire armor or a level 6 metro, complete with a metal castle.
Yes. I will take that, and I will tank from inside the castle. Just bring him to me, guys. Bring him to me. If you got aggro, bring it to me. Okay.
Make sure you get that specialized like foci lens for Chibi's finger guns.
I just envision like a little pop-up like metallic castle thing that you just put around you and you just like carry it with you.
Saying a tank. You know what? A tank. You know what I want now? This is what I want. A tank. Their final form should have armor that's legitimately a small castle built around a horse. And the horse trots around, and I can literally look like a tank when I'm tanking as a tank.
Dual shields, yeah, only on the summons apparently.
You're going to be a medieval Bradley or paladin rolling around complete with the cannon.
Heck yeah.
Oh my gosh. But I mean, that being said, this will probably be one of those things we look back and laugh at in a couple of years of like, remember when Intrepid did XYZ? That was funny. At the moment, not so much. It's a little horrendous. And then as you go up the levels, it gets more and more steep in cost for what you need in terms of like novice, apprentice, etc. Let's introduce strip mining so we can remove all the mountains and hills and the anvils to make Vertec 1 boots.
Creepy janitor's got good ideas. I
love
this.
It. That's funny.
You're going to get PMs from Thogly if you remove all the metal from the anvils.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Shepard says, I'll give up my ranged weapon for 2 shields. Please, Intrepid.
We'll trade.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of Summoner, though, having dual shields, at least for their summons, because that was something that made at least Vertec and a few other people jealous. Like, if the summons can have it, why can't I? Githal had some cool and unique ideas for Summoner spells. And I know Solvryn over here is very excited for Summoner. So I'm going to read this a little bit. Just bear with me. But first, there are just crude ideas that if AOC can implement, or they can just get a small part of the idea or nothing at all. And second is to provide ideas in the comments that are unique. So they're hoping that people submit their unique ideas. Like different augments should Summoner pets have, like undead, animals, etc. So their idea for the special Summoner is having like fighter's momentum. The bar should still fill with some requirements, be it hits, utility hits, or pet hits, or any other way. And then they can be used to take control of any target active pet you have for the duration, corresponding to how filled the special resource bar is. So essentially, you have your creature hit a bunch. It fills up a bar. Once that bar fills, for that duration of time, you can control the pet directly, I think is what they're getting at. By doing this, your main character freezes and enters a cocoon-like state in which you take no damage, and the controlled pet gets stats boosted in additional stats. So it's strength and stats to match that of the player. So it's kind of like monster coining in a way. So at some point, you're able to muster coin for a certain duration equal to your bar, your creature, your summon. And they would like to see it have, like, each kind of pet has a predetermined skills that will change. The skills based on your skill bar once you take control of them, or some or most of the skills of the character skill wheel correspond to a particular spell that the pet you take control of will have. I thought that was kind of interesting. That's a neat way to integrate something that Intrepid's already intending on having, which is like the monster coin system, but also have it be like active playing for the summoner. And I just imagine Vertec, if the way that they explain the cocoon or like kind of like ghost-like state is like when you're playing Loki in Marvel Rivals and you switch to another creature and your clone is just there, like attacking the same thing you're attacking or healing the same thing you were healing. I could see that kind of happening. Okay, Captain America. Nice. Yeah. It's definitely just a sled. But what are your thoughts, especially you, Solvryn, who's excited for the summoner?
Oh man, like I think I've harassed Shepard enough for the last couple of years about my like undying excitement for this archetype. Whoa, so let's unpack this. So it sounds like to me they kind of described, Eyes of the Beast or whatever from Hunters and WoW, where you can just take control of beasts.
Yeah.
And they did that with, and then they added like an invulnerability frame to the summon. That's pretty interesting. I'm not so sure how I'd feel about that in PvP. I mean, to CC myself, to not CC my pet. It's interesting. I'd have to see how it plays out.
Yeah.
And it also, like, I don't think I'd mind it if I get to be like a pre-A2 wolf and run around and bite people and be able to run down everybody at Mach speed, But I think people would be a little upset about that because those were obnoxious.
Yeah, I think What's the trinity for creating enemy creatures? It's what, health, damage, and speed?
Yep.
I think so, yeah.
So if it's super fast, I mean, it's going to be easier to kill, or it doesn't do much damage. But you can catch up to them and poke them.
Except for
And or
prey,
get poked and fall over.
which they were not even wolves; they were children of Fenrir. Those things are mini bosses. Or there's
True, Basil. True. You could Tolnar can be a wolf.
Yeah, fair.
I just also like to curse the ravens, their names, if Des is still in here. Stupid birds.
Nevermore. But,
Vertek, what are your thoughts on Summoner?
I like the idea of having something more active for a Summoner, and having an extra resource bar where you can build up the capability to take direct control over a summon would actually be pretty badass.
Yeah.
I actually really like that idea. At least for like a summoner or whatever. And would it be even cooler is if the summoner can have multiple pets summoned, especially if they double up on summoner, maybe get like 3 or 4 of them out there, and they pick one of them that gets the majority of a boost, but then the others get a little bit of a power up, and then suddenly you're just playing a monster team instead of your summoner itself. And I think that'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think having something where it's not just summoning and then, you know, your summons do a lot of the damage for you. I think having some way of actively controlling them would be kind of cool. But I think it's also one of those things, I don't know, part of me feels like World of Warcraft added the ability for like autonomy for a reason, because people didn't like micromanaging their pets. But I could totally see actions for Intrepid, at least, especially the type of game that Ashes is, where controlling your pet can allow you to do a lot more fine-tuned benefits. Like, you know, if you're playing a mage and I'm playing a cleric and you do something with fire and that procs something for me, and now we have that in our class kind of I forgot what it's called, but meshing happening where like we help each other with the different skills that we do. By taking active control of your pet, perhaps you're aiding in other people's DPS, etc., because you're timing things out differently than the pet AI would time it out. And that would essentially allow it to not only proc off more damage, but thank you, synergy. It would allow it to synergize a lot better with your party, and you can choose which summon you pull out to assist your party more attentively or passively. Thank you guys for donating to the challenge. And we did not realize it only let you do it up to 2K and when we were live, so I might be adjusting that going forward.
Yeah, we might consider it a win if it hits the lesser numbers, just saying.
Yeah.
So I know for me, when like the excitement I have for summer, and that is the like, I love role filling, and it's something like I like role filling because I really just do not like waiting for people to show up, and like and sometimes you get a time set and people, you know, things happen.
Yeah. I
know for me, like I really hope they one, my big concern is like the AI, like the AI in this game, and obviously it's very, very alpha.
Yeah.
And that's also a problem in previous titles I played, like the AI, if you summoned your bear in Elder Scrolls Online, and man, that bear was special. It would just run all over the place and do whatever it wanted. Like there was no ability to control it. So I lean more on the micromanaging my pet. Like when I play games where you can micromanage your pet, I do have all my abilities hotkeyed, and I will. And I did buy an Azeron, and I will buy a gaming mouse to have 1,000,001 buttons. I'm ready, Intrepid, for that summoner, by the way. And I'm okay with micromanaging pets to a degree. It all depends on the pathing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to look into one of those Azeron cyborg things too. They look kind of neat.
Oh my gosh.
I have one. Totally worth. It has a learning curve.
Totally Side note, I saw somebody ask on the forums if they're ever going to consider adding in controller support, and I think the answer was yes.
At least dual input.
Yeah.
I also know with Summoner, like, the big thing that I'm excited for with Intrepid is that it's going to have that expansive toolkit, because I'm a utilitarian zealot. I, like, self-admitted, like, I will always prioritize utility over damage or whatever we're doing to make sure, like, those things are taken care of. Like, when stricken tanks, right now I'll go up and I have a build for him or Shepherd, and I'll throw down certain poisons and I'll always smoke them so they don't die. And that's the way I like to play with my guild, like making sure we have the tools for success, because you know, you can have all the damage in the world, but if you're dead, you're dead. Like, your damage don't mean diddly.
Right. True. Exactly. That's my argument for people getting out of the bad. Like, but I do my damage. Well, you do no damage if you die, so.
Yeah. Dead DPS is no DPS.
Exactly.
But Solvryn, in your talk there, I noticed you said you love all the micromanaging stuff. I've noticed that there's kind of two camps of summoner slash hunter in WoW, like basically pet classes in general, where one side always says, you know, I hate micromanaging, and I just want to summon a cool thing that does cool stuff. And the exact opposite side of the spectrum says, I don't want to just summon something that auto attacks or adds one ability it does randomly. Like, I'd like to control it. Like you're in that camp. Like, I like to control everything it does to make sure it's doing things. Have you noticed anybody that's kind of like in the middle? You know, like talking with other like summoner fans or those who are anticipating it?
No, because I haven't, and I know I like to micromanage because I do tank. Like, I don't like to be the main tank, but I do tank, and I know when I'm tanking, and out of respect for main tanks, when your pet wanders off and pulls everything in the world to you, that's just disrespectful. You know, you're not respecting your tank.
That's just disrespectful.
You know, like, that's a repair bill nobody wants, and that's just, you know.
Oh my gosh. I think that's the biggest fear that some people have actually with the summoner, is that it's going to be like tank pulls or summon pulls at that point instead of hunter pulls, where it's like your pet pulled things and wiped the entire party, and then you're like yelling at the summoner, and if it's a new summoner and they don't know how to turn something off, like,
like how often are we gonna hear, sorry, my pet pulled?
Yeah.
Because we already get it with the automatic skills when you like melee attack, and someone has like a boss targeted across the room, and they swing their sword, and suddenly they cast a skill that shoots across the map and smacks the boss and pulls the boss over to you. Like, good job.
Looking at you, lightning ball, passing through walls and like smack in between and getting everybody wiped for no reason.
Yep, or it's like automatic attack if you use a skill. So people using like a melee skill or a buff or something like that, and it shoots off their bow. It's happened a couple times.
Shepherd said, you know, you let the summoner die 5 times, I guarantee you they will learn.
No, in the case of our guild, if you pull things to the tank, then our tank's going to be like, you dude, you're paying my repair bill. Go away. It's like, force that one too, because ain't nobody coming here to get, you know, like, don't be taking money out of our pocket. We could build siege equipment and blow stuff up with that. Like,
yes, the carbuncles. Oh look, random ashes.
Yep. The biggest thing like that I saw that's been funny lately is like playing with bards, and there'd be a couple times where like we'll be tanking something in one of the towers out in the tropics, and like I think it was I forget, I'm not gonna call them out, but one of our dear bard friends decided to drop the one saga that has the dragon come out
Oh yeah.
Dude, that thing clips the entire. That thing pulls the entire. Like, it's elevated, so it pulls the entire tower, and all you see is all these mobs come down.
Yeah.
You hear, yeah, and then Shepard there was just like, oh no. So you got me and Shepard like scrambling. If Careerian was still in here, like Careerian's just like, oh no, this is gonna get rough.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that thing pulls like through walls, multiple floors up and down, and like I still remember a couple times leveling out with people. They're like, "Hey, why aren't you using your saga?" Well, I can't use that one, and I'm doing damage boosting, so I mean, I don't really have another saga that it's going to cast, right? I'm trying to boost your damage. It's all red, and that's the only all red saga. Yeah. So like I just can't cast it.
The other day it was me, some otters. It was Kazi's still in here. A couple Revis. It was Cray from KLC. We didn't have a tank on, and we went out to try to find that darn necro book. One of the bards used that saga and proceeded to pull all the bosses and half the entire dungeon. Yeah, we don't have everything.
I mean, I'm just saying, when you're trying to get the most efficient farming down, a couple bards with those that's the way to do it. As long as you can survive the encounter.
Yeah, if you can survive, absolutely. That also reminds me of the way that tab targeting currently is. I don't know if anybody's really messed with it. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying there is something you can change, if you did not know this, in your settings to change it to the closest target enemy. But again, going back to new player feedback, first time player feedback, Upset Pay 7578 says, if I'm in a group and my party is in combat with a mob, if I hit tab, I expect it to, at the very least, be on the first press when I have no target to target something already in combat with my group. Randomly targeting mobs outside of combat when I have no target and my group is in combat with something is clunky and can cause deaths. So the typical expectation is when you hit tab, it's like something in front of you, like the closest one. But it's apparently grabbing some random person behind him, and then he's trying to just attack, and it's pulling more mobs and things like that. And actually AJTs, who I haven't seen in a while, commented saying that he adjusted it to be the closest enemy. But that's just another thing with the pulling of extra things. Like, not only are you accidentally pulling with your capabilities, but if you don't pay attention to where your tab is, you might pull extra mobs and things like that as well. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there. That's at least one thing that you can change on your own besides not using abilities, is that you can adjust the tab targeting. So
the targeting system itself is it leaves much to be desired, both in the action variant and the tab variant. Like,
yeah, I've got to say that as long as I'm playing on like a fighter and maybe even a rogue, action combat's pretty slick. But the moment I'm on a tank and I need to target something that's running in from behind the party, action combat is pretty terrible.
I noticed that action combat for a tank when I was playing one, like half of it. It's like a half and half for tank, and I'm like, how does this work? Like,
I mean, it's pretty damn sweet if you're pulling one mob at a time. I mean, it's pretty damn awesome. I like it. I mean, even two mobs at a time, as long as there's nothing else around that's gonna sneak up and attack your party from the other side, and then you can't target it unless you drop out of action combat, click on the thing that's past everything else in your view, and then continue attacking.
I'd also like to give another shameless plug for all the tanks out there, since I have a lot of tanks. Trepid, the chains for my tank friends.
Yes.
Like, even I was
something that a lot of people were complaining about, is the chains not working.
I don't know why the chains, but like every tank friend I have, it doesn't matter who it is, if it's Shepard, if it's Fucha from Revis, if it's Stricken, if it's you know, or like Jamie's hilarious. If you ever heard him rage in PvP when the chains don't work, it doesn't matter who it is. I'll say this for all the tanks. Please fix change. Please fix it.
I mean, I'm almost thinking they treat it as a projectile instead of like a hit scan. Like if it's there in your targets and you hit the button, it should hit the thing. But it seems like it's trying to aim for a space, and because of lag and latency, the person's progressed past that when the chain hits and it goes, I found nothing, man.
Yeah, I just don't know. Like, I don't know how it's supposed to work.
Just, yeah, I don't know.
Reset.
But just as a reminder, there is a dev discussion for new player experience. Obviously, the change thing is not a new player experience, but a longer term tester experience. But I just also want to add this. I don't know who else agrees or if you have any other thoughts to it, but Hobo Slapper wanted a little bit more intuitiveness in their game, because like the questing model is not very intuitive. They felt like traveling through Vera can be time consuming and perilous because there's no like signposts along the roads. To which Lulu ended up responding and saying, like, obviously questing is not done yet, and for the signposting you have your maps. But that actually brought to mind, because I think you're also allied with some role players, but that's a good roleplay experience, you know, having signs on the road that indicate how far something is and which direction. I
think, well actually not, if you're gonna do around the go around the table thing, I'll let Solvryn respond.
We're kind of towards the end, so if you I feel like just open conversation is fine.
All right, so I personally, I think that is a nifty idea for the RP factor if they were to legitimately incorporate it into node stages. Like there is no signpost pointing towards a wilderness area.
I love that.
Once it hits an encampment, maybe it's like a tacked on kind of like carved in thing. And then it starts going into crossroads and village, and it gets a little bit more printed. And then once it gets metropolis, it's like a bordered, really nice looking block of wood that's actually like solidly in place. And it kind of evolves over time as the node gets more and more developed, you know? That would be really nifty.
I agree.
The world growing in every aspect, I think, would be huge for roleplay. You know, on top of like, I know this is something that the roleplay community has wanted, like, and as somebody who cares about them, I know that they want their tools to make sure like in WoW you can download an add-on where they have their character backstory and you can be like out of combat or out of character or in character. I know they wanted that. Yeah. I think that incorporating all that in the roleplay story, you know, into the rest of the world would be huge for them.
Yeah, I agree. And final little plug-in, and I'm a little bit proud of this myself. What better way to help you indicate if you're in character or out of character than with some skins? And Nice Gaming posted this on Reddit, but Steven stated via Discord that we could soon see pre-order skins come into play, and honestly, Nice hopes that the planned transmog system happens soon. No, it's not super priority or that it's important, but Steven said about a day, so probably 6 days ago, we're actually hoping to have most costumes and mount skins from Kickstarter and the pre-order packs ready for alpha entitlement by August 4th. And I know that's something that a lot of people are looking forward to. After all, a lot of us definitely paid money for cosmetics. So, yeah.
Just love to be able to have that stuff. My goodness.
Yeah.
Speaking of cosmetics, if I may, let me ask you two a question. Brutal honesty here. Been friends with you two a long time. What's your opinion on the models right now? Before we even get to the cosmetics.
Oh. Well, I feel like there's a lot of progress that they could probably still do, but I've seen the progress from like Kickstarter days.
Yeah.
So when comparing it to Kickstarter mages, we're doing great.
Yeah, I know for me, like playing through, obviously I'm waiting for my Beastie Boys, the Tolnar, but playing through the models myself, I'm like, if I were a woman, I don't know if I'd be too thrilled with some of these models because they don't look very feminine. They look, they just don't. And I'm trying to say this extremely politely and nicely.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the sliders aren't working either still, like there's height sliders, weight sliders, custom
the
body part
sculpting
sliders
that you can do where you grab just specific pieces of a face and adjust that instead of like changing the entire nose. You can change parts of the nose.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the models have come a long way, like Chibi said, but there is still a good ways to go. That's another one of the things, kind of like the crafting, kind of withholding proper judgment until they say, hey, okay, so we're nearing completion of our character creator and our final art passes on the models. And so, provide your feedback on this type of stuff. Once we hit that point where they at least say that they're in the final stages of doing all this stuff and any further art passes or creation of new components, then I'll start being real harsh about it. But right now, yeah, it's good. It's good. I mean, the art itself looks all right. It's just, a little bit of custom tailoring to some stuff would be nice.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I'll probably become more opinionated when a Pyre come out, but at the moment, that's my opinion.
Yeah, I just know it's no big secret. I'm very good friends with Revis Order. Like, I'm looking at those elves and I'm like, how are Elves Guild supposed to recruit for like the most beautiful race on Vera when they need a few more passes. I'll put it like that. Obviously that's not anywhere important in the lines of anything, because the most important race that needs to come out is Tolnar. But they need to be a bit more beautiful, that feminized, like the sliders need to be a bit more like realistic so women can be more of themselves, and that ties into that their costumes and their arts. I hope the ladies of Ashes of Creation get to be more custom tailored to what they want instead of like the very PG skins we got. I don't think we need to go like crazy with it, but something modest and beautiful and feminized.
That is actually something I think Vertek, you were with me at that point. I think I brought up early in the Golden Feather Tavern's life cycle, like year 1 or 2 of the Golden Feather Tavern being alive. And I was not asking necessarily to go the way of bikini chainmail armor, but for a female to look more female. Because we have a different type of breastplate that we need than the men do. And it would be nice to make that a little bit more obvious, because it felt kind of gender neutral, to put it gently. But that being said, I did have a kick out of trading a piece of gear with a guy in our guild, and it gave him boobs. So that was kind of funny.
But yeah, we definitely covered the some armor choices need to be a little bit more obviously feminine. Without going into like sexualization and all that stuff. That's fine.
I don't need it like to that degree. But
but just more obviously feminine.
I definitely
Thank you.
I want to see them accentuate feminine features, but what I don't need is, I know some of my friends want full on like E-string game where you can see, they're wearing a G-string, and I don't want to see that personally. Like,
I mean, that being said,
if they do it in good taste, whatever, but
oh my gosh, Basil.
That being said, if I play a brutish, super strong fighter who's also a blacksmith. Yeah, I want to show off my arms. Let me get a sleeveless piece of plate. I want to show off my gigantor arms. I've been hammering on the anvil all day. I'm a strong
Basil
guy.
says he wants to be a sexy farmer.
Oh no. Oh no.
Those mogs for male and female. Okay, Shep, whatever you want. I'm not saying that word. I'm trying to behave. I know for me, if like when we get down to it, I just want to be a Tolnar. I hope they're digigrade. I can look like. Oh, the biggest actual letdown for me for Archage was the original fan art, or the original art that came up for Warborn. Was like my dream model, like looking like a demon dragon, like somewhere between half of a tiefling and half of a dragonborn. I hope they pull that off. Then also be tattooed.
Gotta use my voice for others. I'm sorry, chat's got me distracted at the moment.
Yeah, Basil, respectfully, of course. Respectfully.
I want to make Solvryn question my mog.
My boys and girls in Atarian make me question a lot more than their mog. Sometimes they're right choices.
Nice.
Very fair. Very fair. All right. Well, I think with that, though, that's a great call. Let me go ahead and do this. Thank you so much for joining us. Do you have any things that you kind of want to like cover or shout out? Anything that Atarian is planning on doing?
Do you have any last words?
Yeah. Do you have any last words?
Have any last words? Atarian is recruiting. We're looking more for focused limit testers and people who push past their limits. All my friends are recruiting. Let me try to slam this in real quick. So all the guilds I've been hanging out with, we got Revis Order, Apotheosis, we got Shadow Division, Order of Honor, Otter Nonsense, we got Chaos and Lace. A lot of great guilds to choose from, a lot of different, and like collect a group of people. Somebody can find a home somewhere. They've been a blast to play with, an absolute blessing. You know, I'm gonna keep fighting for everybody in the community and not just murder hobos like me. And if you're feeling frustrated, just don't quit. You know, like a lot of people feel frustrated, passions rise. You know, people got this fire in their heart. Just don't quit. Keep pushing through. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
And if you want to get a hold of me, best way to do it is right there through my guild Discord in Atarian.
Cool.
I just wanted to say thank you to you two for having me on here. I really appreciate that. You know,
absolutely. Thanks for joining us.
Of course.
It was a little too long. I waited almost a couple of years, but finally I've made it here.
No worries. We figured we'd wear you down eventually.
It was going to happen sooner or later.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm here.
I'm gonna go ahead and get this raid going. As for me, I'll go ahead and put my own last words out there. If you like roleplay, which I'm sure a lot of you do because you are in this chat with Desrevis and them, I'm doing Tales of Fablecraft tomorrow with our group, and I'm gonna have a little drink, and I'm gonna show off a Kickstarter that I backed, and you might be interested if you also like to have drinks at a tavern. So I'll share a little bit more of that tomorrow, but that'll be at 2 p.m. Eastern for a couple of hours. Feel free to tune in and listen while you test Ashes or hang out your day, and I am adding them to their own playlist, so you can listen to all of the sessions in order at any point in time. At the tavern.
At the tavern.
All you, Vertec.
Thank you, Solvryn, for joining us. Much appreciated. Always glad to have you around. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us in chat, jumping in, tossing in your opinions, tossing in your jokes, tossing in your memes. Much appreciated. All of your time. It is your most valuable asset. It's the most valuable thing you have. You spent it here, so we hope it was worth it because there are no refunds on time. Once you spent it, it is gone. Speaking of gone,
it goes so fast.
we're about to run away. Everybody take care. Right. We'll catch you around next time. Bye.
Bye.